Hi, everyone, and welcome to our International Women's Day series. I'm joined today by Anika Henry, who's the co-author of the Black Report, who is currently supporting a Google for startups. She's going to help me shine a light on one of the 6 missions of International Women's Day, which is Women in Tech. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. It's absolutely awesome to be here. Happy International Women's Day to everyone.
Would you tell us a little bit more about yourself and about your background?
Definitely. I'm a lawyer by education, oddly enough. And after finishing law school, quickly went into business. Really quickly realized as well that the future of business, as well as the future of society, law, everything is really and truly in tech. I joined my first startup in 2015, which is a female-founded startup and is actually in the legal space called Crowd Justice. It's now gone on to become Legal, which is the parent company providing legal software for lawyers, as well as other individuals in the industry. And then more recently, before joining Google, I worked with another female founder who was building a fintech startup. So for me, my journey has been really and truly trying to understand where business and technology and the intersection of those two is going to lead us to this new world, and really figuring out how I could play a role. When I first showed up, it was incredible to work with female founders, but I realized there weren't necessarily so many female founders in the ecosystem in general, as well as individuals who looked like myself. So I can say it's been incredible to spend the past year or so being able to work and push that mission to make sure that more female founders exist and gain the support they need, as well as more Black female founders especially.
Absolutely. And what led you into the world of startup then? How did you sort of first jump in?
It was the need for excitement. It was also the need to be able to use my generalist skills. I'm definitely a lifelong learner, incredibly curious, and always want to be challenged. So there's something so unique about being in the earliest stage of a business. You're maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people potentially, and you're wearing all the hats and taking on all of the roles. It's also just the potential of taking an idea and making it real, and all of the bumps and the obstacles you meet on the way. So for me, it was the opportunity to learn more about how to grow and scale a business from the really early stages. And it's incredibly exciting work.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it is. Keeps you on your toes the entire time, I imagine. I mentioned in the intro that you were the co-author of the Black Report. Do you want to just tell us a little bit more about that?
The Black Report was released last year, October 1st, in partnership with Google for Startups. And it is the first report of its kind. It's the first data deep dive into pre-seed and seed Black founders in the UK ecosystem.
Amazing. Yeah, that's really interesting work. And where can we find it?
You can find it online at theblack.report, and I definitely encourage everyone to check it out. It has incredible insights and also paints a really interesting picture on the narrative as well as the backgrounds of Black founders, some of the Black founders that are hopefully going to go on to build some of the unicorn companies that we see coming in the future.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we can't really have a discussion without acknowledging COVID at the moment. So what effect has COVID had sort of on you and on the startups that you're seeing?
Initially, it was incredibly challenging. We went from being able to interact on a daily basis. I was running a busy, bustling campus where you had some of the greatest founders pretty much working side by side, building the next businesses that are going to change the world. And quickly, we all were reduced to working from home, figuring out if our internet could handle the challenge, as well as just trying to navigate the intersection between your home life and your work life. I found for me very quickly, there weren't necessarily as many boundaries to me ending the workday. So the workday would just drag on and on and on. I had to get really smart about making sure that I was intentional about finishing and having dinner and not working into the wee hours of the night. So initially it was incredibly challenging. I was fortunate enough to not actually have anyone close to me who took ill or was affected by COVID, but I do need to acknowledge that before I go on to say COVID actually in a lot of ways was a blessing, at least with regards to the work I was able to do given the amount of time. So working from home and not necessarily having these strict boundaries on the end of the day meant that I was able to work on a lot more of my passion projects, and that was being able to be a bit more of an advocate for the Black community as well as Black founders specifically. The Black Report was written over a couple of months on the phone, which was an incredible experience, and I'm really proud of the result. But I can definitely acknowledge the pace of my life before COVID would not have allowed for the kind of deep work and reflection and research that was required to put this work out. So it was a bit of a blessing, but I definitely don't want to underestimate the challenge that so many families as well as people globally have faced as a result of the pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. But at least it's good to know that there is a silver lining, some silver linings
so many
to all of this.
Definitely. There are so many silver linings. And I think one of the only way to keep your hope up and to be optimistic right now is to look to those silver linings as a promise that it's going to get better and things are going to change and things are going to improve. But I am also pleased that given the fact that the world was, I guess, so stuck where they were for a moment, it did allow us to start some really important conversations. And following on from Me Too in 2018, the conversations surrounding racial equity that started in May 2020 were incredibly important. And I'm not sure they would have happened but for the entire world being at a standstill, but I'm so pleased that they've happened. And I'm so pleased to continue to be a part of the change that is happening. And I really hope everyone who's watching this video, they themselves will figure out how they can make changes in their lives or in their company to better support some of the disadvantaged communities, but especially to fight against anti-Black racism.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as you know, just going back to sort of International Women's Day, it's about helping forge a more gender equal world, celebrating women's achievements and also challenging inequality, which you've already mentioned. Have you faced any obstacles due to being a woman in your career to date? And how have things changed or evolved over your career so far?
I think, again, it's down to circumstances and the environment you're in. I have faced challenges. Sometimes I'm unaware if the challenge is something that I perceive or if it's real. And I think that can sometimes really throw me for a loop. I will say being a woman in a position of power sometimes and having to lead a team, a mixed team, for example, with both male and females, it can be a bit challenging when you feel as though sometimes things would be received differently. For example, if you were a man, or sometimes my authority is being challenged, or I'm asked a couple extra questions I don't think I would have been if I was of a different gender. But on the other hand, I do think things are improving. I do think things are getting a lot better. I do think we're having these conversations more readily. I do see more women in positions of power. Again, the world will not change overnight, but I think as long as we continue to shine a light on this issue and continue to work together, we're going to have a more gender equitable world, hopefully very, very soon. But I also think the more important piece is having more women in positions of power where they can really impact and affect change. But then additionally to that, I don't have a family yet, but also acknowledging some of the challenges that women especially bear with regards to child rearing and maintaining the home and making sure that we build an environment as well as businesses that allow for women to be able to maintain all the responsibilities that they have, given all of the burdens they tend to bear, as well as be able to shine and excel in their role. So I think awareness is key, definitely, but also a bit of flexibility. And I think for all of the female leaders who are out there listening to this, I think being able to have mentors to rely on, as well as girlfriends to call and have a vent at the end of the day, that's been essential to me, kind of keeping sane at times. But really and truly, I think things are improving, and I'm so pleased to be a part of the change that's happening, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, just to kind of as a follow on from that, this year's International Women's Day theme is Choose to Challenge. Is there anything that you've had to challenge or are currently challenging sort of right now in your kind of life and sector?
Definitely. I think sometimes it's hard to see the trees from the forest, because this is the work that I've committed to, and this is the work that myself and the team have been doing every single day. We work to empower underrepresented or underestimated founders. So for me, every day is a day to choose to challenge. I think more specifically, when it comes to this year, I think it's really just keeping the momentum of all of these initiatives going, keeping the conversations going. We understand the nature of this world and we're overstimulated and trends happen very, very quickly. But unfortunately, when it comes to the kind of equality that we're talking about and really allowing for all the voices to be heard, for everyone to have a platform, for people to be treated in an equitable fashion, I think I just choose to challenge the fact that we need days, or that we should continue with these trends. It should be a daily commitment. And I think that this is something that as long as we all commit to it, we're going to be in a very, very different place in a year, 2 years, 5 years time. And I really, really do look forward to that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's so important, not to let it be a kind of a fad, and just to remain focused on it. And then just finally, is there anything that you read, watched, or listened to that has inspired you, or that you would recommend to others watching this?
I think instead of highlighting a specific piece of content, I just try and surround myself with as many exciting and empowering and uplifting stories as I possibly can. My LinkedIn feed is literally just consistently women winning. And I think I really, really make a point to try and seek out the kind of positive and affirmative content that helps me realize that I'm on the right path. And there are so many women who are going ahead of me and so many women who will come behind. And so for me, it's really just making sure I try and celebrate the wins happening around me on a daily basis, as well as my own personal wins. So yeah, singing my own praises, which is something I've been working on a lot lately. So for me, it's just making sure it's a consistent effort.
Yeah, absolutely. And we should all do that more. And also International Women's Day is the perfect time for it. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for, but thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Roberta. It's been lovely to be here.